fans, welcome back to Room 237, and I am continuing my reviews of the Wrong Turn film series, and now I come to what is, I think, the only genuinely good sequel of the Wrong Turn series, though I do have a couple guilty pleasures, but this is the only one that I will consider as a genuinely good sequel. But before I get into that, I don't generally do this, but I think I probably should start. But I hope this is the video that if you haven't already, you will subscribe to Room 237. You can also find Room 237 reviews on Instagram and Facebook. And I hope you'll drop a like on this video. And if so, thank you so much. But now let's get into Wrong Turn 2. It is a 2007 direct-to-DVD sequel. Yeah, only the first one went to theaters. It was directed by Joe Lynch, who pretty sure is no relation to David Lynch. But and I have seen him in other things. Like I know he was part of the His Name Was Jason documentary. He was an actor in Hatchet 2. He had a segment in Chillerama, which was actually an anthology that I never got to this past October. Maybe I'll get to it this October. Directed Mayhem, Point Blank, Everly, Knights of Badassdom. And, he appeared in the Psycho Legacy documentary, which I also have. Also, Into the Dark, Exploring the Horror Film documentary. I think that's one I actually haven't seen. But it was written by Turi Meyer and Al Septine. Stars Erica Learson, Henry Rollins, Texas Battle, Kimberly Caldwell, who plays herself in the opening. Along with, we have Ken Kersinger, who played Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. He's another big stunt guy that can play larger-than-life characters under a lot of makeup. What was her name? Daniela Alonso, who I know appeared in the Black Christmas remake. She was the one that was drunk. They all were. She was the really drunk one. And Erica Learson is actually one of my favorite scream queens of this era. I first saw her in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. She was in Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, which I saw once years ago. Don't really plan on getting back into that anytime soon. And for a while, I thought this one actress, Alexa Palladino, I keep thinking she's the actress that would be the girlfriend in The Hills Run Red, but it's actually an actress that's in Wrong Turn 3. Because for a while, I'd go on the internet and it would say she's in Hills Run Red and Wrong Turn 3. And I would be like, no, she's in Wrong Turn 2. But rewatching it and rewatching 3, I see that I'm very wrong. Now this definitely follows the Scream rules about sequels, where it ups the ante in just about every way. Kill count, blood, guts, and gore, ups the ante on the depravity of the killers. It does go more in depth with who and what this family is. Although it is, I would say it's a different family. I guess it's more of an extended family. But, and not really sure what to say about it, but there's a lot to admire about this. And yes, while there is a lot of really cheesy hokiness with this film, even with how stock all the characters and tropes are, I think it's all done on purpose to the point of being parody. I mean, well, I'll get into the characters, but one thing I could say about the Wrong Turn series, probably more so than any other slasher series of its kind, is it's definitely not repetitive as much as, say, like Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, it's always a group of friends going out to the woods for camping or a getaway or a party, and then they're killed off one by one. These films they always find a new way to get a group of people into the woods. Sure, the opening kills might all be the same: hikers, rafters, kayakers, whatever. But the main group of characters, there's always a different reason why they're going out into the woods. And that's something I always found. At the very least, that is a plus that I can give. Even the worst of the Wrong Turn sequels is there's a different group of people that have a different reason for ending up in these woods. And for this, it is sort of a take on the Survivor reality TV show. I think it's called Apocalypse or After the Apocalypse. Henry Rollins, who is great in this movie. I've always been a fan of Henry Rollins, pretty much whatever he's in. He's kind of like the Jeff Probst host, but he's also either former military or current military, but he's a U.S. Marine colonel named Dale. Oh, the show is called The Apocalypse Ultimate Survivalist. And it's kind of the brainchild of this one character named Michael, or M, who's sort of the film student guy. This is his dream, his brainchild. His fiance or girlfriend is one of the producers, but Kimberly Caldwell, who's in the opening of the film, playing herself, which I don't even know who Kimberly Caldwell is. She was a finalist on American Idol. Okay, that's who it is. And I guess the joke is she's playing the exaggerated diva of herself. So we see her going through the back roads, red Mustang, blasting Electric Avenue. She calls her agent, who is actually Patton Oswalt. And she's really playing herself to be this prima donna, like how dare you get me this crummy reality show way out in the woods? This sucks. And she runs over this person standing in the road, seemingly this hillbilly, I don't really know if it's like a teenager yet, but we just know it's one of the mountain people. She hits him, he flies over the car, which if you watch the making of, it's practical, these wires and everything. Which is funny, because when you get to Wrong Turn 3 and you see all the green screen that's in that, this is like... there is CGI in this as well, but... And this is probably the best effect in the whole film, or at least it's one of my favorites. She goes over to check on him, and he, like, reaches up and grabs her, and, like, bites her mouth off. She has no lips, so it's all just... She's running back to her car. She runs into Three Finger, who's still alive from the first film, played by a different actor. And then we just get the shot of her ankles as we just see he chopped her in half down the middle. All practical blood and guts, intestines fall all over the ground. And they each grab a half and start dragging her away. And I will say, Joe Lynch is a very big fan of 70s, all horror 70s. I think especially Italian films. Because there is a lot of stringy, intestine kind of gore. Like, it really made me think of Anthropophagus. Which, does it look realistic? No, but at least it's practical. I will give it that. So then we get, the intros of all our characters. my name is Amber, and I deserve to win, or I deserve to be on the apocalypse because I'm a winner. Because so we have Amber who's like in Black Christmas, she's the slut, played by Alexa Palladino. We get Jake Washington, played by Texas Battle, who he's the jock with a heart. He big football star, had an accident. Now he can never play again, but you know he's got the winning spirit. We have Steve Braun as Matt Jonesy Jones, who is the ultimate. I mean, he is like an Eli Roth character on steroids. He is the ultimate dude bro party guy to the nth level. You know, he skater, always making sex jokes and wanting to have sex. Even in his intro bio video, he's doing a skate move and he frigs up. But he's always, party bro, party man, yeah dude, sex bro. He's the comic relief, even though he's not funny. Then we have, what was her name? Crystal Lowe plays Elena, who's also in the military. She's the lesbian character, which that's really all we get to know about her, other than she's got family issues because of that. Actually, no, I got that wrong. Alexa Palladino does not play the slut. She plays Mara, who is the girlfriend producer to M that takes the place of Kimberly Caldwell because she knows the show. And then, of course, Henry Rollins is the host. And he does all the Jeff Probsty things where, like, he looks at the cameras like, and you will know what it's like to survive after the apocalypse. Zoom in on his face. And yeah, they are kind of making jokes about, like, how the trash cans with the fire is all fake. It's all props. But then they get split up into teams of two. They gotta walk around out in the wilderness. And there's like traps and challenges that they have to solve and compete. And then there's like the immunity card. And then they have the elimination round. We don't really get much into the show itself. Because once they're out in the wild, that's pretty much when the killing starts to begin. Like, there's these tripwire things that sets off. The premise of the show is there's, like, radiation, fallout. They're the supposed survivors. So they come across these traps that release a sound, and then there's a challenge card. Henry Rollins is setting all those, and then he's attacked by Three Finger. And Henry Rollins is definitely the best character of this whole film. There are some scenes that I swear are just parody. Like, I think a lot of this film is a parody because these characters are so over the top with just the kind of trope that they are. Oh, and Erica Learson, who I didn't mention, is sort of like, I don't want to say goth, not really goth, but she's this vegan who she's all about, like, she's not there to make friends, only trusts herself. She's in it to win it. And she has one of the most personal reasons. Well, I can't really say that. They do get into why they all want to win. Like, she wants to get out of debt that her ex-boyfriend put her in. The lesbian contestant wants to pay off her father so that she's out of his life because he's disapproving. Jake wants to start like a hospital for kids, but also or like a football camp for injured kids or less fortunate kids. Dude bro just wants to have a beach party. But anyway, One by one, of course, they're hunted. It's wrong turn once they get out in the woods. And I will say the makeup, because One Eye and Sawtooth are dead. They did die at the end of the first film. The only returning mutant is Three Finger. And like I've said it in my review for the first Wrong Turn, this is the start of Three Finger really starting to look kind of laughable. I mean, all they really do is give him kind of like a pointy nose, kind of like on Beetlejuice when he pulls his face and like his whole face kind of stretches towards his nose. He kind of looks like that, like sharp, frigged up teeth and white hair. And all the mutants are just out in the open, in the daylight. There's no obscurity or shadows or even a whole lot of mystery to their look. And I will say where Three Finger doesn't look as elaborate or scary as the first film, the extended family, the new family in this, which is just Ma, Pa, brother, and sister, they are a bit more elaborate. Ken Kersinger, he's got this hellacious cleft palate. But then Ma, brother, and sister just kind of have the typical mutant, mongoloid kind of bulbousy heads with stringy hair. Except sister does have, I don't know how well you can see that, but like her, like, she's got this like permanently angry brow, and her lips kind of like curled in on itself. And this movie really goes into just how depraved these family members are. The gas station attendant is he's back in this again, played by Wayne Robson. After Henry Rollins is knocked out, he wakes up and he's upside down. Three Finger stabs him a couple times. He killed one of the camera guys and cut his scalp off. He's wearing his scalp. And of course, he's still the... But he manages to get away. And this is one of the parts where Three Finger cuts the camera guy open and just takes out just strings of intestines. Eventually, M takes Jake and Amber down to the lake. And she tries to have sex with Jake, but he keeps pushing, and he's the jock. Tries to push her off of him to be like, hey, you know, I got family that wouldn't want to see this. So he walks off. So then she just opts to blow the camera guy, which Erica Learson, who plays Nina and Mara, M's girlfriend, they do their challenge out in the woods, and then they stumble upon M getting blown by Amber. So then they try to find, I think, like a phone or something, and they come across this house. And of course they go inside, and then they go in this bedroom, they find the Polaroids of all the family. And then they have to hide because mutants come in. They see Mother, who's given birth, on the table, and we hear like the voice of, well, baby's coming now. Voice of the gas station guy. But they get her up on the table, and the camera pans down, and when they break her water, it's just all black, toxic waste fluid. It's really disgusting. But then sister's holding the complete mutated baby, sees the human girls, tries to get in the bedroom where they are. They have to break through the outhouse because the bathroom's like an outhouse. Break through the bottom. They run out. And Mara gets an axe to the head, which is a very poor effect. Not all the kills have great effects. Because she's running, and it's like a cheap, what do you call it, GoPro. Like a cheap GoPro. So she's like running, an obvious CGI axe to the head, but it looks like it's actually like behind her head. And then she falls. Pa comes up and gets it. But then we cut back to M and Amber down by the water. He leaves. She sunbathes. And we see Brother. And Brother is watching her. And he is just going at it on himself. And we get close up some of his mutant face. Which Sister catches him. Beats the hell out of him because she gets jealous. And then runs right out of the woods with a knife, chases Amber, hacks her to shit. Which, that's a cool effect. When we see her back, it's all practical. We see her, the vertebrae of her spine sticking out. Well done. Brother stops her, but then they start making out. Yeah, that's what it gets into. They start making out, and then Henry Rollins, who he's able to get out of being tied upside down, beats up Three Finger, blasts him with a shotgun. He goes flying, but he's all cut up. He makes his way to the house that the girls were just at, and the old gas station attendant, played by Wayne Robson, just credited as old timer. This scene is only for exposition, just because of how the scene ends. Henry Rollins is stitching himself up. He sees dynamite. He's like, oh, what's that dynamite for? And he's like, trout. You just throw it in the water or it's float to the top. Then he starts asking, like, what was that thing out there? Like, who are these people? It's like, oh, just like you and I, brother, only uglier. But he goes to talk about how when the paper mill shut down and a lot of the toxic chemicals that the paper mill was using killed all the wildlife, all the townspeople left except for one family. They had kids, then they grew up and had kids of their own. Then they started coming out uglier, stronger, which kind of explains how they don't die so easily. In fact, like, there's a part like Brother gets messed up and he stands up and he just like, they're almost impervious to pain, which kind of is talked about more in part 4. And talks about why he hasn't left. And when he's all done stitching himself, he just says, well, I gotta stay close to my young ones. And then he just gets up and starts, like, attacking Henry Rollins. Which was, so, if he's just gonna, he lets Henry Rollins stitch himself up, who's, you know, camoed out, built, can obviously take this guy. He lets him stitch himself up, then he tries to attack him. Which, yes, when Henry Rollins does first go in, he's got the shotgun. So, but I mean, while he's sitting there sewing. But the scene was just there for exposition. So, okay, one family left. There's no wildlife, so there's no food. So they turned cannibal. No other people around, so they just fuck each other. But also through the toxic chemicals, they came out deformed. Which, I mean, Hills Have Eyes had the nuclear radiation, so it's like, is inbreeding too much of a taboo that you have to have some other sort of chemical or radiation component to make deformed people? Because, I mean, with Hills Have Eyes, I kind of get it, but, like, with this, just, can't we just have inbred mountain people that are cannibals? I can't really discredit the toxic chemicals because it's there. They do make a point of it. But, whatever. I guess I would have liked it more if it was just, you know, because they're separate, alone, inbred family. But he puts a stick of dynamite in the back, the old guy's pants blow, and there's the comedy moment where he comes out and he's like, huh? Blows up. And then he takes some of the weapons and dynamite. And I think this scene was meant to be silly as well, sort of parodying some of the getting ready to kick ass scenes, because it shows him tying sticks of dynamite to arrows. Then he takes like mud or whatever and he puts on the war paint. But the last thing, like the music's like drum rolls kind of building up, and he does the. I was like, is that parody? Cause it's done. It's so silly and cheesy that I honestly think it's just parody. But Jonesy, Elena, and Jake come across this barbecue, so they're all sitting talking about how they're gonna spend their money. And then Erica Learson comes by. She's like, we have to leave. They killed her. They're mutants. And at first they don't believe her. And Jonesy is all like, this is awesome. Like, whoa, bro. And he tries to say special effects. Like, it's Mara. She's a producer. It's M's girlfriend. Don't worry about it. But then they look at the barbecue they've been eating. And they see this, what's that design? It's like the infinite or infinity symbol, but it's the snake kind of eating itself, which is Kimberly's tattoo that we see in the beginning of the film. That's when they realize, like, oh god, we were just eating Kimberly. So they try to get back to the RV, but earlier we saw M go back in the RV. He's checking out the camera footage. It goes bad, so he tries to fix it, and that's when Pa goes in the RV. He attacks M. Ma is driving the RV. M gets the arrow in the chest. Which, there was a good scene that was kind of like the original after Mara gets killed, where Erica Learson's hiding. And Ma pulls up with the truck, and like she's like laying under a log, and Pa's standing there. Ma pulls up, she's eating a finger, tosses it, and it lands right in front of her. She has to try not to scream. So it's Erica Learson, Jake, Amber, Jonesy. They see the RV is gone. They try to get to the paper mill. And they... that was a laugh. Because they're walking through the woods. And they see Brother, like... and they hear screaming. And they think he is raping Amber. They think it's Amber. So when they get closer, Sister like lays back and just kind of pulls off Amber's face and scalp. She was wearing it as a mask while he's fucking his own sister. Wow. And then he like pushes her legs off of him, and she like tucks and rolls, grabs a knife out of her boot. And this is the worst effect of the whole movie. Jonesy and Elena are running. Erica Learson falls in a tiger trap. Jonesy steps in one of those traps that grabs his ankle and hangs him upside down. Elena tries to undo him, but she gets in one herself. So they're both swinging and hanging upside down. Pa comes up with his bow and arrow. Brother standing there. He gives it to Brother. Kind of like a, go for it, son. And they even do like the, like, go for it. So it shows son trying to... And the effect is, it goes through, I think it's through her head, back of her head, out the front, into the front of his head, out the back. Or either way, it goes through both their heads. But it's CGI, and the CGI is like, when you see the arrow, like out, head, middle, head, other side of the arrow, it's all unaligned. And like they're still swinging and swaying, but the effect doesn't move. and there's just like a little bit of red blood CGI, not like it's dripping or anything. It is the wonkiest effect of the whole movie. I don't let it ruin it because there is plenty of practical gore, but that is just very laughable. 3 different sections of the arrow that are all disaligned, and it doesn't move as the 2 dead bodies are swaying. But Learson and Jake end up at the paper mill. And like the first one, they see it's all full of cars of all the people they killed. They get up to the office to find a phone or a radio. And I'll say this is probably the creepiest or the most like emotionally scary part. Because yeah, the rest, like all the incest and everything is shock value. But they open up a locker and they see just the decomposed corpse of a young girl in a dress holding a doll, covered in cobwebs, and they say like, "Oh my God, she was just hiding. She was just a little girl," and just the idea of this little girl being chased and hiding in like a cabinet or a locker, and being so scared to come out that she just dies of starvation and was never found. But of course, then they both get caught, and then she has the Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner table scene, which first she's in this cage in the living room. We see Ma preparing dinner. Brother and sister are like toying with her in the cage. Pa's sitting on the couch watching just a staticky TV. Jake is tied up. Oh, because they used the RV as a trap inside the paper mill, and he sees on one of the screens in the RV that M was killed. So then Henry Rollins shows up, and like brother and sister go after him. He has the bow and arrow with the dynamite. Hits brother, sister tries to undo it. They blow up. He goes and gets Erica Learson because she's got razor wire around her wrists on the chair. So he has to like pry it with a knife, and she has to slide her hands out. But he gets them free. And then he gets like 3 arrows in his chest from Pa. He just keeps getting shot, and he's like, run. Like, go find Jake or get out. And he's like, is that all you got, bitch? Come on. They just keep shooting him with the arrows. Most badass character. But then Ma finds the blown up remains of brother and sister and comes in with the razor wire with like these heavy balls on it. So she like throws it and it wraps around him, which he chokes to death with "fuck you." Not chokes to death, but bleeds to death around the jugular. And then the final part of the film is they try to throw Jake into there's these big grinders that they throw the wasted meat and bones in. But then, Erica Learson goes in to help Jake, and they hit this thing, and both Ma and Pa go through it. I mean, it chews them up, and blood chunks go everywhere. We see it all slop down into the barrels below that's just full of ground up, wasted shit that they don't eat. And then they drive away in one of the cars from the warehouse. And I mean, there are some cheesy lines, like earlier in the beginning of the film, Erica Learson has a protein bar. Jake says, this is cheating. And she's like, sue me, I'm vegan. Now give it back. And he's like, well, since you're not here to make friends, takes a bite. It's like, wow, that's really good. So they keep going back and forth with like the whole like, sue me. It's just very cheesy acting. But just the characters are so over the top. with the kinds of characters they are. Like the dude bro party guy, like the slutty girl, like the sensitive jock, or the sort of mysterious, trust issue, somewhat goth girl. They're so that I almost feel it's parody. Like, I feel like Joe Lynch is actually kind of parodying a lot of the tropes. But then it ends with, we see the toxic waste, fluorescent green chemical stream. We see Three Finger, who lived the shotgun blast at a spigot with a baby bottle. He keeps missing the mutant baby's mouth. Then he just takes a finger and the baby sucks on that. End of the movie. And I mean, for a direct-to-DVD slasher sequel, I mean, yeah, the arrow through the heads was a pretty bad effect. Very terrible CGI effect. But you really get that Joe Lynch is a fan of this kind of grindhouse 70s splatter flick. Because everything else seems pretty practical, except I did forget to mention, the green chemicals. The water's going this way, the camera's moving, but the green kind of stays straight. Doesn't quite match up. And it took what people wanted to see from the original. I mean, other than the tension and the suspense, but the mutants, the kills, the blood, the guts, the splatter, and it upped the ante on all of that for this, which I think is fine. It did give it a newer story, like, oh, okay, they're sort of a parody of like the Survivor reality show. And that's why these people are out there. And that's the biggest compliment I'll give to the whole Wrong Turn series as a whole, was they find new ways to get people in the woods. But this one is entertaining. It's not a guilty pleasure. I actually think this is a genuinely good sequel. And I think a lot of people do too. This is consistently ranked as either the best sequel or just the best Wrong Turn altogether. It's actually ranked higher on Rotten Tomatoes than both the original and the reboot. So if what you liked about the original was more the kills, the gore, and the mutants, this one is definitely more of that kind of slasher film, where the first one did have the tension and the suspense and the atmosphere. I will say the makeup effects, which were done by Stan Winston, again. The sort of main family, the four main mutants, their makeup effects, as simple and not very... Paws, like cleft palate, is probably the most unique out of all of them. They're the most elaborate, whereas Three Finger, maybe just because this is right after the first one, it does look more... He looks more like Three Finger the sequels, which is not very good. But when the effects are practical, again, not realistic looking at all, but plenty of... there's plenty of intestines and stuff. And it does go bigger with just how depraved, showing brother going at it on himself, watching Amber, sister getting jealous, and the two of them having sex while she's wearing the girl's face and hair. But I think it's also trying to show like who are the real monsters, because when Erica Learson is caged up and Jake is tied up, it's like the mutant version of an all-American family. Ma cooks dinner, Pa's watching TV, staticky, flickery TV, and the kids are just toying with the captives. But definitely my favorite sequel. I do have ones that I can't stand, or maybe I won't go that far. There will be some rants in the series, but there are more guilty pleasures in the Wrong Turn series than, say, some other franchises that I have done or will do. So, Wrong Turn 2. This went on longer than I wanted it to, but I do enjoy this film. Thank you for watching.